Welcome to Moments with Marianne. This is your host, Marianne Pestana, and we're here today with special guest, Vish Chatterji, who's here to share with us his new book, The Business Casual Yogi. Take charge of your body, mind, and career. Now, Vish is an accomplished executive turned coach with a spiritual twist. In parallel to his 20-year leadership career spanning the automotive, technology, and startup industries, he has studied and practiced yoga, meditation, Ayurveda, and karmic advising. He holds a BS in mechanical engineering from Northwestern University and an MBA from the University of Michigan and is certified as an executive coach through UC Berkeley. So welcome to the show, Vish Chatterji.
Thank you, Marianne. I'm excited to be on your show.
What an honor it is to have you here and to talk about this new book. What inspired you to write this?
Well, it's been, they say in book writing that when a book is ready to be written, then it sort of shows up for you. So I didn't have any necessary aspirations to write a book. I've been a yogi, a practitioner of yoga for the last 20 years. I've also been a business executive, run startups. And I sort of had these two separate worlds where I would do my yoga practice and meditation in the morning and then go out in the world and try and, become the CEO of something. And along the way, I was having a real challenge with my business. And I actually went to my yoga teacher, who's, one of the contributors on the book, major contributor on the book. His name is Yog Rishi Vishwaketu. And I went to him and I said, I'm really struggling with my business world and I'm just not sure what to do. And he kind of slyly said to me, these yogis, they kind of have a vision. So he said, oh, Vishwajit, and that's my Indian name. He said, oh, Vishwajit, you do more yoga business, your business will be okay. It was very cryptic. I didn't understand what he meant by that. But I figured it was a ploy for him to try to get me to help him when he comes to LA to do, yoga workshops. I figured maybe he wants some free assisting help. So there was this big yoga festival, Bhakti Fest, several years ago. And I volunteered to be his assistant to, carry his bags around, open doors. His English isn't that great. So, making introductions for him with different people. And then as he taught yoga classes, I'd go around assisting people, to get the pose correct. And in the middle of one of those classes out in Joshua Tree, in the middle of the desert, 120 people in a yoga class, I'm walking around assisting. And I thought to myself, this is such a different world. There's the yoga world and there's this business world. And there's no intersection between them. There's these yogis having these mystical experiences, these powerful spiritual awakenings. And then there's my other world, which is, living in a cubicle, living in an office and just, trying to get through the workday. And I thought, is there a way to bridge these two worlds? Can I bring some of these teachings to the world that I'm a part of in the business world? And so the idea just struck me that, maybe this is what is missing. And so I sort of researched what is out there and there was nothing out there. And so the idea of the business casual yogi came about, where I'm the business casual guy and my teacher is the yogi. And I'm trying to bridge these two worlds. And of course, as I wrote the book, I realized I am the business casual yogi. I wear business casual clothes, but I'm a yogi underneath it.
Oh, what a great story that is and how this comes together. But you touch on something I know that a lot of people struggle with. I mean, we have this very spiritual side of us, whether we're a yogi or into spirituality. And then we have this business side where we don't think the two can come together.
Yeah. And we, as most of my life, I sort of kept them separate, right? I did my morning routine, my morning practices, and then I put on my business clothes and went out and, tried to conquer the material world. And you get so caught up in trying to rise ahead in leadership and management and success and income that you sort of lose sight of your spiritual nature. We're all, the end of the day, we're all spiritual beings, but we're just lost in our human experience and we sort of forgot. And a lot of times what happens, somebody has a big wake-up call in their life. They have a health challenge or a major work challenge, and then they sort of wake up and realize, like, wait a minute, I've been missing something in my life. And so what I started to realize, though, is that when I went to leadership trainings, right? So I was in senior management, many, big companies probably all of you have heard of. And they would send us these management trainings. And I realized that everything that they were teaching in leadership training actually correlates very well with the philosophical side, the philosophy of yoga. So there's a yoga system of doing yoga on the mat and twisting your body and all that, but that's just one very small piece of it. There's a whole philosophy behind it. And that philosophy is basically directed at a practical way to improve yourself. And you could say it's the ultimate self-development system. And so I would notice that every time I went to a leadership or management training, it echoed what I had learned in yoga philosophy. So I thought, well, why don't I just use yoga as a framework for personal development, as a framework for leadership development? And so a lot of the premise of the book is helping you be a better leader in whatever you do, a leader in an organization, a leader in your family, a leader in your community, a leader in your own life, but using this system beyond just the yoga poses on the mat, the whole philosophical system, the whole self-development system to make yourself a better human being.
So for people out there who, this sounds very enticing to them, but they're like, well, I'm overworked and there's just so many distractions within my day. I don't know how I can incorporate something like this into my life. How would they start?
Yeah, it's interesting. I've noticed quite a few times over where when I've taken coaching clients, I do a lot of executive coaching and business coaching, and especially small business owners, some of them, they're working 60, 70 hours a week pretty consistently. And I find a way through the one-on-one conversation, through really understanding what they're doing and applying, basically almost like Tim Ferriss's principles, like the 4-hour work week. Find a way to accomplish more, but doing less in your day. And so I'll take somebody from a 60-hour work week down to a 30-hour work week. And what's interesting is when they start working less, they prioritize. And oftentimes it's surprising to me, but their revenue ends up doubling or tripling. So it's kind of an interesting correlation. Like they work less hours and they start increasing their income. And so what's going on there? And I started to realize that if you have more space to think, if you have more white space to really think deeply, and also when you are working, being more present, being more aware, you just make better decisions. You make more efficient decisions. You choose the right people to do business with. You choose the right meetings to attend. You choose the right things to focus on. And those things have the most impact and actually end up, creating more success in the end. So it's almost like the more you slow down, the more success you have. And, I was wondering if this hypothesis makes sense. And if I look back to my corporate days, and even when I coach executives now, the most successful senior leaders, they're not frazzled. They're not busy. They are very calm, collected people.
So I'm sure everyone's wondering, okay, so how do we get to that? How do we get to this place? Because I'm sure I sometimes feel it myself where we get to this place of sensory overload. I mean, there's so much incoming emails and text messages and you name it. So how do we get to this place where we can start pulling some of this away? How do we determine what's a priority?
Yeah, so the day is filled with incoming emails, texts, social media, direct messages, phone calls, people showing up at your desk. And you go through the workday really frazzled. But there are moments where you're 100% present. Like right now, you and I are having this conversation. We're both 100% present. And why is that? Because we schedule it in our calendar and we honor our calendar. And so you're not doing your emails right now. I'm not doing my emails right now. I'm not taking calls right now. It reminds me, I should make sure my phone is turned off. But so what happens is we schedule things in our calendar. And for those moments, we do show up. So why can't we schedule moments of presence for ourselves? Why can't you schedule a 10-minute block in the day or a 30-minute block in the day, whatever it is, to just sit, right? And not as a relaxation or recovery from the workday, but just as part of your, overall productivity of the day. What if we schedule a 30-minute block where we, journal or write or meditate or go for a walk and honor that, I guess, calendar invite as you would with another human being. We honor another human beings that we invite to a calendar invite, but we don't honor ourselves. So schedule a meeting with yourself. That's one way to start, I would say.
That is one empowering shift in perspective. In your book, you talk about taking yoga beyond the mat. What do you mean by that?
So anyone who's done some deep work into yoga will know that the yoga on the mat is known as asana, which is your posture or your pose. And that is one out of 8 different steps of yoga. So yoga actually has eight steps. They call it the 8 limbs of yoga, or the ashtanga of yoga. And each of these limbs are sort of different, almost requirements in order to transcend from one step to another. And so I write about this in detail in my book, but basically the first 2 steps are guidelines for living. So certain things like, being truthful, being honest, not being violent, using your sexual energy in an appropriate way, thinking about cleanliness and decluttering and living in a clean space. This basic guidelines of living are the first 2 steps. And so that already gives a huge framework in order to start setting the foundation for a better way of living. Then we get into the breath work, breathing exercises that move the energetics of the body. We get into the actual postural movement and moving the body on the mat. And after you've done sort of the lifestyle guidelines, the breathing techniques, and the movement of the body, you're just halfway through those 8 limbs. Then the next 4 limbs are all about systems of meditation. They're sort of the steps towards deeper and deeper meditation. And you start with sitting still and getting quiet. So not listening to things, not looking at things, not tasting things, not feeling things, just being quiet. And then focusing your energy on some object of meditation, which then takes you into meditative state, which then allows you for a moment to transcend your material existence, the state of samadhi, as they call it. It's just where you have no thoughts, you're beyond the thoughts. The thoughts continue, but you just get beyond that. And the idea is the more time that you spend in that state, the more flow you start to have in your regular day-to-day life. So, but in order to experience that state, you have to do all these other steps, which is, get your lifestyle in order, do a little bit of energetic breathing work, do a little bit of body movement work, and then actually sit and get quiet. So in a way, anybody who goes to seek a meditation teacher or starts beginning meditation, they're automatically bringing this quality of their deeper being into their life. So I would say one very easy way to start is carve out, 5 minutes a day to meditate. And in a quiet way, sit quietly and close your eyes, don't listen to things, and pick something to focus on. And whatever, it might be a God that you worship, it might be a person that you care about that's passed away, it might be an image, it might be a symbol, it doesn't matter. There's so many different techniques to meditate, but all of them require you to just get quiet and focus your attention on one thing. And every time your mind wanders away, come back to that one thing that you're trying to focus on. And eventually your mind sort of settles and you just have a moment where you transcend that thing that you were focusing on. And that little state of transcendence starts to make changes in your actual day-to-day material existence. That's the sort of the philosophy that then helps with day-to-day life.
So how important is it that we, as we redefine our life, that we really have a great understanding of our own personal mission, like what we're here to do?
Yeah, so mission is a very important concept. And this is something that the corporate world suffers with quite a lot, where you have an executive who's a senior leader who doesn't have a clear sense of purpose themselves, let alone set a clear sense of purpose for the team. And I noticed that, I talk to people in the corporate world and they'll say, wow, I had a really terrible day. It was awful. I don't know what's going on. And they just feel dejected. But I also do a lot of coaching with military personnel. So people who served in our armed forces, and, they have these, unbelievable battle stories of things they faced in the battlefield, but they don't seem to have as terrible a day. And I started to wonder, like, what's going on there? Like when you ask a soldier, how was your day? They'll say, well, it was okay. I had a pretty good day. And I think part of the reason is in the military, they have a very clear sense of mission. And so they know what they're aiming for. They know where they're trying to go. And they know if they made steps towards it or steps backwards from it. And if they made steps towards it, they feel like they had a good day. And if they made steps backwards, then they say, okay, we know what to fix for tomorrow. Try and do it differently. And in the business world, a lot of times people aren't clear what they're there for. And so they don't know if they've made any progress. They don't know if they're even heading in the right direction. And so then the, combat veteran comes back to the civilian world and they start to feel really lost and really, without a sense of purpose. And so a lot of times I found if I help them get clear on purpose, clear on personal mission, all of a sudden the PTSD issues become much more manageable. The addiction issues become much more manageable because they have this mission that they want to serve for their own personal life. And all these other things sort of fall away because they see them as distractions to that mission. So I believe, as a leader, you should know clearly your direction, which way you're going, but also for the organization that you work for, set a clear direction for your team. Like, this is where we're going. This is what we're trying to do. And as soon as the team feels a sense of mission, a sense of purpose, they start to do better. They start to handle adversity and challenge a lot better. So that's, I think, the key thing is when you have mission, you have a direction that you're trying to go. And when you get pushed off course, you know how to correct because you know where you're trying to go. Now, in the yoga system, there's a concept called Sankalpa Shakti. Sankalpa Shakti. The word Shakti means energy or strength, and Sankalpa means intention. So the idea of Sankalpa Shakti is when you have a very strong intention, it seeds at a deeper level of your soul. And so as you go through day to day and you get blown off course, you have this innate understanding that you're off course and you start to recorrect to course. And so when you set a clear intention or a clear mission or a clear purpose and you write it down, it sort of cements it somewhere in your psyche. And as you go day to day and you get thrown off course for whatever reason, life throws lots of things at us, you never forget at a deeper level where you're trying to go. And it starts to align all of these micro decisions on a day-to-day basis towards serving you to that mission. And so if you don't have a mission, then you don't get any of these benefits of, micro course corrections and the power, the Shakti of Sankalpa, of intention. And you're a lot more likely to get thrown off course. And if you're leading other people, it's really hard to motivate them if you're not clear on mission.
It sounds like the military is, people who work who've been in the military have a very clear understanding of, okay, these are the things we need to do, but they don't get into, I'm not hearing that shame, blame, kind of mentality afterwards. Do people who are not in the military tend to get a little stuck in that area where they're like, gosh, I should have done this, I could have been a little bit better at that, as opposed to just resetting?
Yeah, it's hard. I mean, yes, definitely when people get out of the military, that's where they start to really struggle because in life there isn't a clear mission and there's nobody telling them what the mission is. And that's why I think ex-service members do really well in companies that are clear on mission. They flourish in those organizations. Now, for an individual, I think we're always trying to figure out, like, we're looking at other people and measuring ourselves against their mission. Right. So, I've got this neighbor and look how well they're doing and I'm not doing well. And so I'm failing and I'm shameful of what I'm doing. So I think we have a lot of, keeping up with the Joneses kind of a mentality in our culture. And when we do that, we're sort of measuring to the wrong mission. Right. So it's very important to be very clear about what is your journey? What is your unique path? And in the spiritual sense, from a yoga philosophy point of view, it's about karma. We're all born with a different set of lessons, a different set of skills, a different set of tools. And the only measurement of how well you're performing is against your own sort of karmic blueprint, so to speak, your own journey. No one else's journey really matters. So I think part of that shaming comes from, well, this is what my dad set for me and I'm not meeting that expectation. Or this is what my, friend is doing and I'm not meeting that expectation. So I think it's very important to sort of say, if I'm feeling ashamed of something, where's it coming from? Like, by whose measure?
I think that's probably one of the best ways I've heard that explained. So thank you. I appreciate you taking the time to go through that. Yes, because it really puts things in perspective. I mean, we're not measuring ourselves against anybody else. It's only in relation to our own karma.
That's exactly right. And the book, The Business Casual Yogi, that I wrote goes deep into yoga philosophy, into Ayurveda, the mind-body medicine system. But I cover a little bit of the karmic journey and understanding some of what is karma. But beyond the Business Casual Yogi, part of the work I do is the Vedic astrology system. And, I don't normally talk about it in a public setting because the word astrology for me has a very bad connotation. When I first came across the word astrology, I thought, what is this hocus pocus woo stuff? And then I started going deeper into the Vedic system, so there's yoga, there's Ayurveda, the mind body medicine system, and then there's a system of Jyotish. So Jyotish translates as the science of light. And of course, in Jyotish, we study the science of light through the light of the planets. And so in English language, we start to say, well, that's astrology. And then, of course, I think of Western astrology and these newspaper horoscopes, and that whole thing to me seems like hocus pocus. But what I realize is the Western system uses the wrong astronomical mathematics. So when somebody says your sign is blah, 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 that's actually not correct to what's in the sky. And, the Vedic system is very much a truth-seeking system. And so by correcting to actual astronomical reality, we start to get a different map of these light of the planets and how they influence you. And what I realized about the Vedic system of Jyotish, or Vedic astrology, you could call it, is the study of karma. At the end of the day, it's the study of karma, and it's trying to understand each individual's unique karmic blueprint. Why are you born? Why are you here? What are you here to do? And why are you having these challenges? And helping understand that context of that. And that is where I find some really powerful wisdom, where it doesn't matter comparing yourself to anybody else. You just have to hold up yourself to the journey that you're on. That becomes the key thing that I see over and over when I work with clients through the Vedic astrology lens. And the other side of it is, whatever your family life was, however your upbringing was, however you grew up, there was a context and a purpose for that. And that sometimes becomes the biggest breakthrough, is rather than being the victim of your circumstances, you start to realize that was part of your training ground. There's strength and nutritive value in that. So rather than saying, look at all this trauma I went through, it becomes, look how well I can digest and pull out the nutritive benefit from that trauma. And look how strong that has made me today. So that reframing from a karmic viewpoint becomes a very powerful way to look at things. And that, again, comes from this beautiful, elegant system of ancient India.
Well, thank goodness we have the wisdom from the East to help us with all of this. Because I think a lot of times people get a little thrown on how to really approach life and their life purpose. And so with all this wisdom, how do we identify what our life purpose is?
So it's I was very intrigued with the literature on flow state, right? When you're doing an activity where you lose track of time and space. And so, anytime you're doing any kind of work or activity where you really lose track of where you are, how much time has passed, that's usually a clue. There's some clue there, right? And that becomes usually connected to something deeper in your purpose, deeper in your soul. Now, the Vedic system says that there's these 4 different aims of life, these sort of 4 aims of life that are in balance. One of them is earning money, right? Like you have to earn in order to support your lifestyle, your food, your shelter, your home, and that's a legitimate goal. But don't get so lost in the earning of money that you forget about everything else, right? You have to do these other 3 legs. So one leg is earning money. The other leg is having fun, like just going out and enjoying. Like part of, being born into human form is to go out and have fun, like go out for a dinner once in a while with your partner, or meet up with your friends once in a while, or engage in relationships, engage in fun, like just play, right? So we've got the earning of money and the playfulness. Now, we know lots of people who just play and don't do anything else, and they're sort of lost in hedonism. Again, that's imbalanced. Then there is the honoring of your purpose. That's sort of the next limb. And your purpose comprises of several duties, right? So you have a duty to your health, to look after your body in order to do your work in the world. You have a duty to take care of people in your community. You have a duty to take care of people less fortunate than you. And you have a duty to honor your deeper purpose of why you're here. And that to me is part of well-being. If you're not honoring the reason you're here, then you start to just focus on the money earning, or you just focus on the hedonism and not on the bigger purpose. And then the fourth area is your spiritual practices, whatever that means. It doesn't matter if you're religious, not religious, if you're this religion, this, it doesn't really matter. Some recognition that there's a higher energetic force at play and being able to surrender to that. So if you can keep these four areas in balance, you can have a very, very powerful, very powerful life. They say these are the four aims of life. So yes, people are earning money. Yes, people are having fun. Yes, people are doing their spiritual practices, but are you also honoring your inner calling in some way? And not everybody is so fortunate that their inner calling is what earns them money, right? So you may have to have a job that pays the bills, but don't forget to make time to honor that inner calling, that work where you do the work and you feel in flow state. You feel transcendent when you do it. It fills you up in a different way.
Is there any place where people get stuck when they try to bring their life back into balance in this way?
Well, what's interesting is you usually get stuck when you're moving away from purpose. when you align, things magically sort of start to carry you. I use the analogy of surfing. I live here in Southern California. I'm about a mile from the ocean in Redondo Beach. And, I used to like surfing. So I'd go out in the water and I'd observe all these local surfers, and the wave would come and they would just paddle the right amount. And all of a sudden the wave would just carry them. And I would paddle at the wrong time. So I would paddle, the wave would go past me, or I'd catch the wave wrong and knock me over and flip me over. And I was just constantly in this like struggle to try to catch the wave. And so I guess, the good surfer is very patient and very observant and notices that wave and paddles just the right amount. And it just effortlessly carries them to shore. And so the same thing is when you align towards your flow state and you start doing work that's aligned with your inner calling, you automatically catch that wave without a lot of effort. So if you're finding you're using a lot of effort in life, you're probably, going against the flow of your natural inner calling. And you asked the question, how does somebody find their purpose? Well, people work with coaches, people, there's all sorts of exercises you can do. I have an exercise in the book, in the Business Casual Yogi, on how to find your purpose statement. But it always helps to write down. I'm a big believer of writing something down. And you can write it down, and of course you can cross it out and you can adjust it along the way. You can whiteboard it and use a whiteboard eraser and keep reworking it, or use pencil. But this is something that takes a while to start to understand. Like, what are you here to do? And feeling that real strong calling. And I would say most successful people in the material sense are very clear about their purpose. And if you ask them, they'll give you almost a one-sentence answer. So that's kind of a measure, right? Can you, in one sentence, explain what you're here to do?
I love that. It gives people an idea of what to kind of hone in on when they talk about their life purpose. And if it's something like, I'm here to help people evolve, and what have you, can it be something that's more vague, so that regardless of what they're doing in life, as long as it fits within that purpose, it will also fit within what they're here to do?
A purpose statement, or sort of a life mission, is always in service to humanity in some way. Like, at the end of the day, we're human beings. We live in communities. We live in countries. We live on a planet. We're all together at the end of the day. And whatever we bring, it's in service to that humanity around us. So I think that's a given in any one statement. It's in service. It's to help people. But what is it that's unique about you? What are you special at? What do you, and what you're special at is usually when you lose track of time and space, right? When you're doing that activity, you lose track of time and space. And so what is that special skill that you have that's unique, that can be put into service of humanity?
Well, thank you for clarifying that. I appreciate you going over that.
Mhm.
So is there like an optimal daily routine we should have that kind of keep in mind as we keep everything in balance?
Yes, for sure. So, the Ayurveda system that is connected to yoga, it's a mind-body medicine system. explains that for optimal health, we have to have a very disciplined daily routine. And the Sanskrit word for daily routine is din acharya. Din acharya. Din is the word that means day. And what's interesting in my discovery that the word acharya means teacher. So it's like almost like the word for daily routine, dinacharya, means teachings from the day. And when you have a very solid daily routine, there are a lot of lessons that come to you, a lot of insight and learning that comes from that. And the morning is the most powerful time, right? Before we get into our workday, how do we suit up for the day, right? What are we doing to suit up for our workday to come? And in order to have a good morning routine, you have to have a good nighttime routine. So that's the thing, is anything in the morning begins with the night before. How do you wind down the day? When do you stop with your electronics? When do you start to dim the lights in the home? When do you get up to bed? When do you actually fall asleep? All of these things are things that one has to be very deliberate about in order for a morning routine to even happen. Then you wake up in the morning, right? And in the Ayurvedic system, in the yoga system, waking up around sunrise is the best, like before sunrise. Usually around 5:30, 6 o'clock is considered the ideal. There's even books written about how powerful it is to wake up at the 5 a.m. hour. Lots of literature on that. But somewhere around early morning, whatever that is for you, right? For some people, maybe it's closer to 7, but somewhere in that early range. And then when you wake up, our first instinct is grab the phone, right? Which is a disaster because now you've got the whole world news and emails and bombardment, and that just shocks your system. So rather than that, put on your protective armor after you wake up. And how do you do that? Some combination of moving your body, getting quiet, doing some contemplation, whatever that is. And so you can kind of make up your own, that works for you. Maybe for some people, it's some spiritual worship or religious worship in the morning. Maybe it's a little bit of yoga exercises, yoga asanas. Maybe it's a walk. Maybe it's journaling or contemplating. But you want a little bit of movement and a little bit of quiet time early in the morning, I would say, makes a great routine. You can get a lot more sophisticated with it. In my book, you can get all sorts of deeper structured ideas. But I'd say at a minimum, have some movement and have some quiet time. Those two things, if you can do on a regular basis, will make a big difference in your day. Keep it simple, right?
I love the keep it simple. Mm-hmm. And there's so many resources. So if someone's maybe not, feel like they can meditate really well, you could journal or take a walk, like you're mentioning. There's lots of easy, simple ways to approach that.
Yeah, and the other thing with the quiet time is also communing with nature, right? Just if you have a home that has a garden, go out and interact with the flowers in the morning, or just go out and breathe that morning air. It's very, very powerful charge early in the morning. It's a very special time. It doesn't matter where you live, even if it's super cold out. Bundle up, go outside, and it's like the whole world around you is sleeping, and so the energy of the universe is almost more accessible because it's less cluttered up with everybody's drama because they're all sleeping, right? So you kind of go out and bathe yourself in that early morning light or early morning energy.
Well, as we begin our day, it's a great way to begin our day, and as we go through our day, a lot of us are usually trying to manage different stress that comes up. So how can we do that? And is stress trying to teach us something?
Well, I mean, the obvious thing is we're stressed out. We're not managing something right. We're not managing something well. And when we're in stress state, we're triggering fight or flight response in our body, which is, run, hide, fight. Like these kind of responses are not very productive for higher order thinking, right? So if you're in constant firefighting mode, you can't really rise above that. You're sort of stuck in it. And it becomes this sort of hamster wheel of existence. And so one of the things that I find is very powerful is to write things down. And I know it sounds simple, but we just don't have the memory and we don't have the space in our world today to remember every single thing. And everything that we try to remember also adds stress to us. So I always say, get it down on paper or get it down on an app on your computer or on your phone. But any idea that comes in your head that needs action, capture it somewhere. And that way you can relax about it because it's captured, right? Once I write it down, I need to pick up milk at the grocery store. If I try to remember that all day, it's adding this little extra stressor in my mind. And of course, the day has so many things that come up and you're trying to remember all of them. And all of a sudden your mind is cluttered with all of it and you start to feel overwhelmed. But you write it down and you're like, okay, you know what? I got that milk thing captured somewhere. Maybe it's a little calendar thing that says at 3:15 today, when I have a gap, go to the store and get some milk. So it's there. I don't have to worry about it anymore. I can let go of that little bit of mental clutter for the moment. Oh, I have to call so-and-so. Oh, I have to reply to that email. Okay, write it all down. Now it's captured. It's not cluttering my mind. And that way, when I'm sitting with you right now, we're 100% present. I'm 100% with you. And I also know in the back of my mind, everything that needs to get done today will get done. I don't need to worry about it at this moment because it's captured somewhere.
I think all of us have that one friend who's really connected to their phones or devices that you never really feel that they are 100% connected with you when you're spending time together. So it's such for me, like a reminder how important it is to detach from devices as much as possible.
Yeah, I mean, our device overload. I mean, I wonder like what's happening to our evolution of our thumbs and our necks and our backs. I mean, just the way that you see people and their posture with their phones. I mean, what's going on a physical level with just joints and tendons and bones, let alone what's happening at the mental level and the subtle level and the energy of, in the brain. And, these are incredible devices, incredible power, but it has to be used in moderation as with everything, right? Everything's in moderation. You enjoy a glass of wine here and there, but you're going to drink 10 glasses, you got a problem. Same thing with the phone. You use the phone for an hour here and there, but use it for 10 hours, you have a problem. So I think we should, not, be very cognizant of the power of these technologies, but use them in a wise way. Use them. Don't let them use you. That's what my teacher, Vish Chatterji always says. He's like, use technology, but don't let technology use you. And, like you said, when you're with a friend and they're stuck in their technology, who's in charge there?
Yeah, definitely not the conversation or the connecting with one another for sure. So,
And then
in your
people start to feel lonely, right?
oh yeah, I know. I know. And then it furthers that disconnection in many ways.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, in your book, you go over many different breathing techniques. Why is it so important that we connect with our breath?
So the word for, and I know in English people say, oh, breath work, I'm a breath work teacher, I do breath work. That's really not it. The word is pranayama. Pranayama. Prana means your life force energy. You could say ki energy in the Chinese tradition, but life force energy in Sanskrit is known as prana. And the word yama means restraint and control of. So pranayama is actually a cultivation of your life force energy. So you're not doing breath work, you're not doing breathing exercises, you're actually cultivating your life force energy. And so these are techniques that are a very quick way to re-energize your life force that of course gets drained with everything going on around us. So in the yoga system, in those limbs that I talked about, those 8 limbs of yoga, one of the limbs is pranayama, which is the cultivation of that life force energy. So the reason we do these techniques is to enhance our energy force, our energetic field. And when let's say you go to a holiday party, right? We're getting the holidays here. You go to a holiday party and you meet somebody and you just feel this light from them. That means their prana is very strong. And there are ways to cultivate that same light in anybody through these exercises. So that's one reason for it. The other side of it is I've found miraculous results with clients when they just start doing some breathing exercises in calming their anxiety levels. I remember one senior executive of a media company, lots of sleepless nights, insomnia issues, all sorts of challenges and stress and anxiety. And I taught him one breathing technique that was just taking deep breaths. But in a simplified way, it's taking deep breaths, but it's called the 3-part breath, Dirga Pranayama. I write about it in the book. And I had him just do 12 rounds of this on a daily basis, inhaling, filling the belly, filling the mid chest, filling the collarbone, filling all parts of the lung, holding for a moment, and then slowly releasing it. 12 rounds a day of this. Took him 5 minutes. And he's like, Vish, you won't believe I'm sleeping great. I don't have that anxiety. And that was the only one thing I gave him. I didn't give him like, okay, do this meditation, do this breathing technique, do this. I didn't give him a shotgun approach to things. I gave him that one simple breathing technique, and it literally changed his life. And I was even shocked, And so a little bit of slowing down, paying attention to your breath, doing some of these very sophisticated but simple techniques has remarkable effects. Because one, it's helping your life force energy, but the other is taking care of the material anxiety and stress and insomnia issues.
It's amazing how something so simple can make such a profound impact on somebody's life.
You can tell I'm surprised every time. I approach everything with a lot of skepticism. I studied as an engineer. I'm a mechanical engineer by training. I've been a business executive. I've been very skeptical on many, many things. And of course, I take that skeptical idea to yoga and meditation, Ayurveda, and even Vedic astrology. And then, I'm like, okay, let me experiment. Let me try this out and let me see what happens. And then these miraculous things happen. I'm like, oh, wow, it really does work. It's not just a theory. When somebody practices it, it's quite remarkable. And of course, now science is starting to research and understand these things and getting the same scientific feedback of the efficacy of these techniques. But it doesn't take a lot. I think we look for very complicated solutions, but very simple things can have a profound effect. But you have to do them. That's the one thing. It's not like I do it once. You have to do it daily. And that's where the daily routine comes in, where I sometimes say, you brush your teeth 2 minutes in the morning, you brush your teeth 2 minutes in the evening. But let's say you say, I'm going to go for 5 days without brushing my teeth and then brush for an hour on Saturdays. It's not going to work. It just can't. It's a daily thing that little by little cleans out that accumulation of stuff within the day. And so same thing with these techniques, they are required to be done daily, a little bit, but daily. So 2 minutes every day is a lot more powerful than, or let's say 4 minutes of brushing your teeth every day is a lot more powerful than 1 hour once a week. Same thing with these breathing techniques or meditation techniques. 5 minutes of meditation daily is a lot better than 1 hour once a week.
And thank goodness for that, right? Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it's doable, right? Like we can all afford 5 minutes in a day.
Oh yeah, it breaks it down to making it really simple. And I think I think there's some idea that we have to spend this long amount of time doing these different practices. And a lot of people think of that about meditation. It's like, oh my gosh, I have to spend like an hour meditating. I don't know if I can sit there that long.
No, and this goes back to this, what I opened with, this story where there's this yoga world where people are, doing 2 hours of yoga and 45 minutes of meditation and doing all this stuff. And then there's this other world that's doing zero. And the bridging, and that's part of what my role is bridging those two worlds and saying, look, there's a way to do this in the material world. There's a way to do most of the yoga routines that I wrote about in the Business Casual Yogi. They're about 15 minutes, 15, 20 minutes with moving the body, doing breath work, and doing a meditation all in that time. But you do them daily. And I know many yogis that, hardcore yoga people, they're doing an hour and a half practice, but then they don't do it, they drop it, then they start doing it once a week, once a month, and it's not effective for them. So I would rather somebody does a daily 15-minute practice than once a week, 1 hour, or once a month, 2 hours. It's not effective.
Well, and what would you like people to really take away from your book? I mean, you've got so many great, you've got stories, you have exercises and different tools people can use. I found it to be a great resource for people who are, like many of us who are in the, we're in the business world, but we have this very spiritual side. So we feel like we're walking in both worlds at the time.
Well, when I was working with the publisher on the title, they really liked this idea of take charge. And I was a little bit, is that too forceful? Like, take charge. And now that the book's been out, I look at that. I'm like, yeah, that's really what the message of the book is you take charge of your life. You own it, you take charge of it. And as a coach, I've worked with people, over years, one-on-one, helping them have incredible experiences. And I thought, in this book, I want somebody who can't necessarily afford the time or the money to work with me. Can they have something where they buy a book and they read it and they make a massive transformation in their life? So that's sort of what my goal is, that your listeners buy the book, start following things in the book, and have remarkable transformation in their life. And what is that transformation? Being happier, being more peaceful, being more connected and present in their relationships, being more balanced, and just overall being more successful, right? And what is the measure of success? Measure of success is when somebody asks you, how are you doing? You say, you know what? I feel great. I feel wonderful. I'm happy with my life. That's a successful person. And I believe that what I've written about with the consultation with a real Himalayan yogi, and me with my broad business experience, I'm hoping that the book helps somebody do that in their life, take charge of their life, to be a person that starts to feel really content and happy. And it comes down to really daily practices and daily thinking about your broader journey.
And in a way that's so unique for them. Everyone has unique challenges or looking to approach things in a unique way.
Yeah, and there's no one size fits all. I mean, I know that a lot of authors, they hang their hat on their unique system, their unique patented approach to blah, blah, blah. And, this is not my system. Like, I didn't come up with this. This is the yoga system of ancient India. This is developed by people who are far beyond the intelligence of anybody who exists today. Like, these are ancient rishis, ancient seers of 5,000 years ago that had these systems. My role is a facilitator of that knowledge. I'm just being a translator of that knowledge. So it's not my system. And there's no one size fits all here. You really have to know what's unique about you. Even the Ayurveda medicine system, it's like, what's unique about your mind, body constitution? And based on that, this is what's a recommended dietary approach or lifestyle approach. So there's no one food that works for everybody. It depends on you. So maybe part of going through the book is a chance for you to really reflect on what's unique about you, and then apply things that make sense to you. Like, what do you want to do? What practices feel good to you? What don't feel good to you? This is not a faith-based system. This is in a way, a scientific system. You have to test it. Try it out. Here's a breathing technique. Vish says it works. Okay, try it out. If it works after 10 days, keep with it. If it doesn't work, drop it. Try something else. Keep iterating, but don't just trust some expert and just do it blindly. Like, really question and say, okay, Yogi Rishi Vishwaketu, my teacher, always says, be a yogi scientist. Keep testing and seeing, is this helping? Is this not helping? Even when I do somebody's Vedic astrology chart and they have a real challenge in life, I'll say, okay, here's an approach that I think will solve this challenge. Try it out for 10 days and let me know how it goes. If it's doing something, we'll keep with it. If it's not working, let's try something else.
Such wise wisdom and a great approach to life. Where can our listeners connect with you and be part of your community and learn more about your work?
Oh, so the Business Casual Yogi, the book is available anywhere books are sold. So your typical, e-commerce or brick and mortar outlets. And my website for my coaching work is Head and Heart Insights. So headandheartinsights.com. Or you can just Google Business Casual Yogi, because the book is Business Casual Yogi. My Instagram account is Business Casual Yogi. My Facebook account is Business Casual Yogi. And of course, if you're in the professional world, you can find me on LinkedIn under my name, Vish Chatterji.
Well, Vish, thank you so much for taking the time to be on the show with us here today.
It was a pleasure, Marianne. You asked some great questions. You really got out some things that I didn't think I'd talk about, but they just came out. So that clearly this is part of your life journey, is offering this facilitation of wisdom and knowledge to the world and the distribution of it. So congratulations on living in your Dharma.
Well, my goodness, thank you, Vish. It has been such an honor to spend this time with you and to talk about your new book, The Business Casual Yogi. Take charge of your body, mind, and career. The Business Casual Yogi is available at Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and all indie retailers. And remember to support our indie bookstores. If they don't have it on the shelf, just ask for them to order it. Make sure to visit Vish's website, headandheartinsights.com or businesscasualyogi.com. At Vish's website, you can learn more about Vedic meditation training, which is learning a life skill that will help you your entire life. Through regular meditation, you can experience lower stress, improved immunity, increased resilience to challenges, better relationships, and more joy. Vish also offers personal development advising. This will support you in making a significant decision, life or career change, overcoming difficult personal and professional challenges, getting clear on your life direction and purpose, leading your life with more intention and balance, and also integrating healthier practices that fit your lifestyle and temperament. Well, we're going to pause here for a quick break. You've been listening to Moments with Marianne. We'll be right back after this message. I'd like to thank Jason Eastwood at Guitarfulness for sharing his inspiring music and talent with us. His music is known worldwide for cultivating atmospheres of harmony, inner peace, and clarity. Visit Jason's website at guitarfulness.com. Join his newsletter, be part of his community, and download his music. Well, we're at the end of our time today. I'd like to thank everyone for tuning in. You've been listening to Moments with Marianne, where we make every moment count.
In a single moment, your life can change. Moments with Marianne is a transformative hour that covers an endless array of topics with the best of the best. Her guests are leaders in their fields, ranging from inspirational authors, top industry leaders, and business and spiritual entrepreneurs. Each guest is gifted and a true visionary. A recognized leader in her own work, and while teaching others to develop, refocus, and grow, Marianne will bring the best guest and sometimes a special surprise. Don't miss this. You never know just which moment will change your life forever. Make sure to tune in and visit momentswithmarianne.com for more information.